I'd like to welcome you to this Zoom training that we're going to do online. As you complete each module, if you'll send it to me an email, I'll give you that email address. Tell me that you've completed it, and there'll probably be some questions at the end that you need to answer so that I verify that you actually watched the entire video. This first one will be on just an introduction and an explanation of what we do here at the Mosquito Abatement District. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen with you, and we'll get started. First thing, here we go, slideshow. Here. And we're just about there. Okay. Should be able to see then PowerPoint presentation as we work our way through that. So one, we're obviously glad to have you back, and we want to get everyone on the same page to understand this by a lot of this will be repetitive for most of you, but it's a great teacher, and we ask you to participate with your input the best you can, especially in this kind of a meeting. So we want to become united. We're going to skip over this agenda because it's going to not apply. But I do want to talk to you about who we are and how we fit into the county government and the health department as a mosquito abatement division. We are led in our particular county government by 3 commissioners, Commissioner Lee, Commissioner Ivy, Commissioner Ainge. One of them will have responsibility for the health department, which we're part of, and that is Commissioner Lee. As you can see here, this is the structure of the county government. It then has the commissioners, and then under that is the Utah County Board of Health, and the executive director for that is Ralph Flake. He is the boss of the county. Then we have a deputy director, Eric Edwards, and a medical director, Dr. David Flinders. That is broken into then your business manager. They each one have been different breaks, and you see that mosquito abatement is in part of that. You can notice right here. We have myself with Bruce as being the field supervisor, followed by then Becky, who's the data manager, and really financial, our chief director of the work that we do here within the office. It's here the 3 of us. We got David Cox. David Eager is returning, along with Mike, Kevin Liesel, and Evan. We're all back with us this year. We have our bikers with a couple of new people here with that. We have Austin, Thomas, Parker, and Kirby. We'll talk about that. We have Van Dizals, Mitch, Corey, and Ty. And then our lab folks with Elizabeth coming back, Rebecca and Sarah moving off the bikes into the lab. A few people new is Tyler and Brendan, which we don't have a picture of. This is truly a family affair. You have the Herrings, Sarah and Rebecca, the Farnsworths, Austin, Kirby, Parker, and Thomas. Thomas not being a brother, but his brother-in-law. And then Corey and Ty are brothers as they work together. Give you some thoughts about COVID-19. It is going to change. It has changed how we will operate. We need to maintain social distancing in the office, stay about 6 feet apart as best we can. Don't hover over Becky's desk. Wash your hands when you come into the office. Don't hang out in the conference room. Come in, get your stuff, and be on your way, either as you end your shift or as you begin a shift. We appreciate you doing that. There's some wipes in the lab. If you will put a few of those into your Ziploc bag that's located there, wipe down your truck at the end and the beginning and the end of each day, your door handles, steering wheels, anything that you've touched. And then wear a mask when you're engaged in the public or where you can't maintain social distancing. We are part of the health department and we do need to set an example. Okay. Why do we do mosquito abatement? Well, it's for the health of the community. Mosquitoes, as you know, will then have a great effect on us. They lower the quality of life due to the annoyance caused by sheer numbers of mosquitoes. They increase the impact on our domestic animals and wildlife. The devastating economic problems and negative impact on local economies. They can't be in a particular area because of mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are vectors to some of the nastiest diseases in the world. Okay. Let's go ahead and watch this video.
We have a meeting today as well as in the morning?
No, we do not.
So not today?
No, just tomorrow. Okay. Mosquitoes are vectors for many diseases. These would be malaria, dengue fever. The ones in red, West Nile virus, St. Louis encephalitis, Western equine encephalitis. All those particular diseases are ones that we worry about or concerned with here as we combat this. West Nile, let's talk a little bit about what it is. This is probably more than you want to know. It's a member of the Flavian virus genus and belongs to the Japanese encephalitis antigenic complex of the family Flavirinidae. The Flavirinidae is a family of positive single-strand envelope of RNA viruses. Some of the mosquitoes transmit viruses from the families included yellow fever, dengue fever, Japanese encephalitis, West Nile virus, and the Zika virus, all of which are pretty devastating. It had its origin, was first isolated in a woman in 1937 in the West Nile district of Omogo, Uganda. It then migrated, and the migration was identified in birds and crows in the Nile Delta region in 1953. It was cause of human meningoencephalitis. In the elderly in Israel in 1957, there was an outbreak in southern France. And in August of 1962, the virus was fatal in horses in Egypt and France. In January of 1965, the outbreak in South Africa. August of 74, an outbreak, more serious symptoms in Budapest, Romania in August of 1996. The migration then continues, and it became pathogenic in birds in January of 97, which we had a lot of birds dying. 1999, West Nile virus circulated in Israel and Tunisia, which imported it to New York. Found in New York, its origin from the Middle East, killing birds and people in September of 1999 and spread to New Jersey, Maryland, and Connecticut. It reappeared again in New York, Staten Island specifically, in August of 2000, and then massive outbreak in the U.S. in the Mississippi River Basin in August of 2003. And you see that this migration has continued. This outbreak may be a result of a change in the genetics of the virus. For example, the amino acid substitution in the chikungunya virus that allowed for effective vector by Aedes albopictus in 2007 and then documented there, or it could have been an amino acids substitution in the West Nile virus that increased viral replication in the avian hosts that led to the North American epidemic. Okay, please watch as that now see it moving across the United States. And as you can see, it really does cover the entire United States. It changes from year to year, but every state is somewhat affected by it some period of time. And here's the numbers in Utah. As you can see that our biggest numbers, total cases in 2006, and we've had a decline with an increase in 2017. I'd like you to notice the death number in 2006 was 5 in the state, but it's also 5 in 3 years ago in 2017. We had a very large number of deaths associated with that and a very large number of total cases. Seems to me that the virus becomes beginning a little stronger, causing more severe issues as we move across. Okay. Some other things, some key facts about West Nile. It can cause a fatal neurological disease in humans. However, approximately 80% of people who are affected will not show up any symptoms. West Nile virus is mainly transmitted to people through the bite of an infected mosquito. The virus can cause severe disease and death in horses. About 9 out of 10 horses will die if they get West Nile. There is a vaccination that are available for the use in horses, but not available in people. Birds are a natural host to the West Nile virus. So it's transmitted. Human infection is most often the result of a bite of infectious mosquito, Culex genera. You see that the mosquito becomes infected and it feeds on an infected bird, which circulates the virus into their blood for a few days. The virus eventually gets into the mosquito salivary glands, and then during later blood meals, when mosquitoes bite, the virus may be injected into the human and animals where it can multiply and possibly cause illness. We are, as humans, horses, a dead-end horse. We just don't get the virus at a high enough level to be able to transmit it back to the mosquitoes. So it can also be transmitted through contact with other infected animals, through blood or other tissues. A very small portion of human infections have occurred through organ transplant or blood transfusion and breast milk. There is one reported case of the transplacental mother-to-child West Nile transmission. To date, no human-to-human transmission of West Nile through casual contact has been documented. No transmission of West Nile virus to healthy care workers have been reported when standard infection control precautions have been placed. There has been transmission of West Nile in the lab from lab workers who have been reported. Some signs and symptoms Again, infection with West Nile is asymptomatic, and in around 80% of the infected people, or can lead to West Nile fever and severe West Nile disease. About 20% of the people who become infected with West Nile will develop West Nile fever. Symptoms include a fever, headache, tiredness, body aches, nausea, vomiting, occasional skin rash, and swollen lymph glands. If you become severely ill, and it's a small percentage of people, about 1 in 150 who are infected would develop then encephalitis or the meningitis, which is a headache, high fever, neck stiffness, stupor of thought, disorientation, comas, tremors, convulsions, muscle weakness, being paralyzed. And the incubation period is usually between 3 and 14 days before this pops out. And people over the age of 50, however, it seems to occur a little more often, but most of it occurs to any age of people. It can be diagnosed in several ways, one through IgG markers. These are the ones that are looking at then active antibodies fighting it. You have IgM, which are then, if you've been exposed, you would show those. And then you have then neutralization assays, where you're looking for the magnitude or the increase of the antigens. And then we can use qPCR, which is what we use in our labs to detect it in mosquito populations. Treatment is mostly hospitalization, intravenous fluids, respiratory support, prevention of secondary infections. To this point, there is no vaccine available for human populations. We're going to end there with this. So we'll come back to this. And so one of the things I'd like you to, as you send an email back to me showing that you've done this, tell me the year in which West Nile began. When we came into the United States, that's what I mean by began in the United States. And if you tell me the number of deaths, the highest number of deaths we've had in the United States, not in the United States, sorry, the highest number of deaths we've had in the state of Utah, that would be, give me the evidence that you've watched this. Thank you.